expand our minds and make us all think. Well, today we enter into one of the deepest subjects a human being can actually ever contemplate: pure awareness. And not the personality, not the story, not the body even, and not the thought, not the thought stream that arises and falls like weather, but awareness itself, the silent witness, the open field in which all experience appears. The still center that is always present, even when life becomes chaotic, painful, mysterious, or overwhelming. This is the ground beneath all grounds. This is the hidden reality beneath the surface of ordinary life. This is what the ancients sought. This is what the mystics pointed to. And this is what the philosophers tried to name. And this is what the body forgets, but the soul remembers. And once a human being begins to sense this directly, everything changes. Because when we begin to understand that we are not merely living inside consciousness, we are consciousness becoming aware of itself. We are not only thinking, we are not only feeling, we are not only observing the world, but we are awareness in which the world is appearing. And that changes everything now, doesn't it? Because if awareness is primarily then the surface event of life, are not the final truth then, right? They are appearances. They are movements. There are waves across a deeper ocean. And deeper ocean remains always. The ocean consciousness, let's begin with a simple image. A wave rises. And on the surface of the sea, it's beautiful. It is visible, and it has motion, form, even direction. But the wave is never separate from the ocean. It only appears separate for a moment. Its entire identity depends upon the water from which it arises. In the same way, the individual self arises in consciousness, and the mind says, I am this body. I am this name. I am this history. I am this pain, and I am this achievement. I am this failure. But beneath all of that, there's a deeper truth. You are not the wave alone. See, you're the ocean expressing itself as a wave. And there is no wave without water. There is no thought without awareness. No experience without consciousness. No dream without a dreamer. No form without formless. And this is one of the greatest truths found in the ancient spiritual traditions across the world. In the East, it was spoken of Abraham, the unlimited reality, the infinite ground of being. And in mystical Christianity, it appears as the inward kingdom, the hidden Christ within, the divine presence that cannot be separated from the soul. And in the ancient Egypt, how's it going? The Hermetic traditions, it appears as the unseen source behind all manifestations. The Gnostics thought it appears as the spark trapped in an illusion, remembering its original design beyond the false structure of the world, different language, different symbols. But an underlining recognition. There's more to reality than the five senses. There's more to you than the social role. And there's more to life than the story you were even handed. And beneath all of it, consciousness itself. The science of awareness. Now let us bring in science. Science at the best does not weaken mystery. It depends it. It deepens it. And the more we study the brain, the more we realize that consciousness remains one of the greatest unresolved questions. And we can measure neural activity. We can observe electrical patterns. We can track brain regions involved in memory, emotions, attention, dreaming, and its self-awareness. But the question still remains. Why does any of it feel like something from the inside? Why is the subject of experience at all? Why does color feel like color? Why does pain feel like pain? Why does love feel like love? And why does a dream feel like a world? See, science can map and correlate of consciousness, and it can describe the machinery, but the mystery of awareness itself remains profound. And in this where many thinkers begin to point towards consciousness not as a byproduct of matter, but as something more fundamental, something primary, something prior, something the brain may filter, shape, or localize, but not necessarily generate in a simple way people, once assumed. And that is why consciousness studies, neuroscience, philosopher of mind, and even quantum discussions continue to fascinate people. Because the deeper we go, the less simple reality becomes. And the old materialist story says the brain creates mind. But many people now subject that the relationship may be more complex. Perhaps the brain is not the producer of consciousness, but the receiver, the translator. But the receiver and the translator are interface through which consciousness expresses itself in human form. And see, that idea appears in spiritual teachings, mystical testimonies, and the personal reports of people who have undergone profound altered states, near deaths like what I've experienced. Meditation, trauma, or visionary awakenings. And whether one calls it soul, spirit, field, mind, or awareness, the experience remains strangely similar. There's a depth beyond the surface self. There's a truth that deeper than ordinary identity. And there's a spacious behind the voice in the head. This makes me kind of think as I was teaching about this, and I'm writing about this morning, about I have a dear friend that traveled by foot across the country all the way to Brazil. And he was a good Samaritan. He literally believed he could make it across with the kindness of people and being kind in return. But he went to this depth beyond self. And to us in society, we would call that crazy. But is it? Went to the depths of the deepest places most of us are terrified to even go. And to question humanity's way of being and to say, hey, no, we actually can live this way. And he did. And he could have continued, but he began to say no to things. See, there is this truth that is deeper than ordinary identity. And there's a spacious behind the voice in the head. And there's a stillness that was never broken. Psychology in the inner world. Psychology gives us another lens. And this lens is essential because awakening is not just a metaphysical idea. It also changes behavior, emotions, memory, and self-perception. The human mind is shaped by conditioning. The childhood experiences, by repeated beliefs, by trauma, by attachment patterns, by culture, narratives, by fear, and by rewards, by survival. Hi, how you doing? And for many people, the self they think they are is actually a bundle of learned responses, a collective of protective strategies, a story assembled around pain, personality built to survive. That is not an insult. That is human reality. The psyche adapts, it compensates, it defends, and it constructs an identity that can move through the world, but identity is not the totality of being. But yet we're taught it is. See, a person may say, I am anxious, I'm broken, I am unworthy, I am abandoned, I am too much, I am not enough. Yet those are not final truths. They are often conditions, conclusions. They are the language of the wounded mind. And the miracle of awareness is that it can witness those thoughts without becoming them. And that is where healing begins, when you recognize them. But you're not them anymore. Not by declaring, not by suppressing the mind, and not by declaring war on itself, but you see clearly. I can see clearly now the rain has gone. By recognizing this thought is arising in me, but it is not all of me. And this emotion is moving through me. But it is not my entire being, and this memory is present. But it is not my essence. This fear is real, but it's not ultimate. In psychology, that ability is not transformative, because when identification loosens, the nervous system begins to settle. And that's when you find people with these nervous system issues, and it calms. See, the body no longer has to defend an imaginary self at every moment, and the inner war begins to soften. And when the inner war softens, perception changes, relationships change, and choices change. Life changes. That is why awareness is not abstract. It is practical. It is healing. It is liberating. Now let's get to sleep. Sleep is not empty. Now we move into sleep. And this is where many people have been taught to misunderstand one of the most sacred thresholds of human life. Sleep is not simply shut down. Sleep is not merely unconsciousness, and it shouldn't even be called sleep. Sleep is not wasted time. Sleep is not just biological maintenance, though it certainly includes that. Sleep is a threshold, a doorway, a descent, a return, a place of meeting. The waking mind loosens, defenses lower, and the surface self recedes, and the deeper layers emerge. And in sleep, something ancient opens. The analytical mind, it steps back. And the body restores itself, and memory is consolidated and placed where it needs to. And emotional processing continues. And the psyche reorganizes, and the inner world comes alive in ways the waking mind often cannot control. And this is why sleep has always been regarded as sacred in many traditions. Because sleep places the human being at the edge of the visible and the invisible, the borderland, the veil, and the in-between. And some ancient cultures understood sleep as a place of divine contact, a place where healing occurs, a place where guidance could be received, a place where the human and the divine could meet in symbolic language. And this is why dream incubations was practiced in sacred settings. People would prepare themselves. They would purify the body, set an intention, enter the temple, sleep in sacred spaces, and await revelation. And they knew that the dreaming mind had access to layers of reality that waking consciousness often could not reach. And they knew that unconsciousness is not empty. They knew that the dreams could be messages. Not always literal messages, but meaningful ones, symbolic ones, transformative ones, ancient dream temples. And if we look into ancient history, we find that dreaming was not treated as a trivial side effect of sleep. It was actually treated as a serious bridge between the worlds. In ancient Egypt, Greece, Mesopotamia, and other cultures, dream temples and sacred sleep practices were used for healing, for revelation, and divine consultation. And this person would often enter a consecrated space, and the body would rest and the mind would surrender. And the dream would become a language of guidance. Hello, Egypt. Hello, how you doing? Shout out from Egypt. Well, you know what I'm talking about then, don't you, man? So these traditions understood something modern culture often forgets. And that the unconscious speaks in symbols. That the soul does not always use ordinary speech, and that healing may arrive in image, feeling, encountered, or vision, and the sleep can become a ritual of contact with the deeper self in a world that overvalues constant stimulation. This wisdom is easy to dismiss. Hello. But it deserves respect because it reflects a profound recognition. The human being is not finished when the light's out. The human being enters another mode of perception. And I know this. I've known this since the day I returned back to life, that I don't sleep. I travel. And I have experiences, and I gain these wisdoms, and I bring them to the plate. See, the human being enters a mode of perception, another chamber of consciousness, another dimension of inner life. And if we approach sleep with reverence, we may begin to notice how much wisdom has been waiting there. Dreams are not random. Dreams are not meaningless noise. That is the wrong frame of mind. See, dreams are meaningful productions of the psyche, and they may also function as a bridge to something more. And they can gather fragments of memory. They can process emotions, and they can dramatize fear. They can reveal hidden desires, and they can express unresolved grief, and they can rehearse future actions, and they can present symbolic instructions. And for many people, they are also carry a sense of encounter, a presence, a message, a knowing, a visitation, a warning, a comfort, a pattern that feels larger than the mind can dream it. Psychology can explain some of this, though, through memory, consolidation, emotional regulation, and symbolic processing. But psychology does not exhaust the mystery. See, because people across cultures and era have reported dream experiences that altered the direction of their entire lives. Dreams have inspired inventions, revelations, healing insights, and spiritual transformations since the beginning of time. Dreams have changed people. Dreams have warned people. Dreams have prepared people. Dreams have healed people. And in a spiritual framework, this is exactly what we would expect. If consciousness is deeper than the body, then sleep may become one of the places where the veil is thin. Not because the human being leaves reality, but because reality opens, the veil thins. And there is a reason so many mystics, traditions speak of the veil. Because human life is layered. The outer layer is sensory. The middle layer is psychology. The deeper layer is symbolic. And the beneath that is the silent source. During waking life, the surface world dominates attention, responsibilities, time, identity, noise, language, performance, social roles. But in sleep, many of those structures loosen. And when the structure loosens, deeper communication becomes possible. And this is why many people feel that their dreams are not just personal. They feel touched by something greater. A wisdom beyond waking logic, a message beyond deliberate thought, a form of communication that arrives through image and feeling rather than argument. And this is why and what people mean when they speak of divine communication. Not always a voice from the sky, not always a spectacle, but often something quiet or something intimate, something exact. A knowing that lands in the heart before the mind can explain it, a dream that reveals the truth and waking self was avoiding, a symbolic encounter that changes everything, a sense that you have been addressed, the observer. Now we return to the observer because this is essential. Because the observer is the one who notices the dream, and the observer is the one who notices the thought, and the observer is the one who notices the fear. And the observer is the one who notices the body reactions. And the observer is not the same as the passing content. And this distinction is at the heart of contemplative traditions and also relevant to psychology. It's all there. If a person can observe a state, then a person is not fully identical with that state. And if a person can notice fear, then fear is not the whole self now, is it? And if a person can notice grief, then grief is not the whole being. And if a person can notice thought, then a thought is not the totality of awareness. And this matters because many people live as though every passing mental event is absolute truth, and it is not. See, much of what arises is conditioned responses. Much of what arises is old emotion. Much of what arises is survival programming. Much of what arises is simply noise. But awareness can watch it all. And when awareness watches without fusion, something remarkable occurs. Space appears. Clarity appears. Freedom appears. And often healing appears, but pure awareness is the direct encounter with what remains when all the surface are seen through is not dead. It is not empty. It is not numb. It is alive. It is present. It is aware of itself. It is often open field in which all experience comes and goes. Thought arises, awareness knows. Emotion arises, awareness knows. The body changes, awareness knows. The dream unfolds, but awareness knows. And the world appears, and awareness knows. And see, we are not our thought nor emotions. We are more powerful than even that. or the energy within that guides through. We are I am that I am, my friend. So in this knowing is not separate from being. It is being. See, this is why not traditions insist that the deepest truth is not found merely in concept. It must be realized, not believed, not performed, not realized, but directly. That realization may come in meditation, in grief, in nature, in silence, in profound love, in a dream, in crisis, in surrender, in the edge of death, in stillness after exhaustion, in the moment the ego finally stops trying to control everything. And when it comes, it often feels both simple and impossible simply because it always was here. Impossible because the mind kept looking everywhere else, outward, external. Nature is a teacher. Let us speak. Because nature is one of the greatest teachers of awareness. It's one of the greatest teachers been for me. I mean, the ocean does not struggle to be an ocean at all. And the mountain does not question whether it is worthy of being a mountain. It's just going to be a damn mountain. And the tree does not perform identity. The desert does not apologize for emptiness. And the stars do not ask permission to shine. Yo, can I shine, man? No, it's going to shine. And nature moves in a rhythm, in cycle, in stillness and becoming, and in death and renewal, in expansion and return. In this, nature mirrors consciousness. The tide rises and falls. The moon governs hidden rhythms. The season turns, seeds go underground before they bloom. Fire clears what is old, rain restores what was dry, and the forest teaches interconnection. The desert teaches surrender, the sea teaches depth, and the sky teaches spaciousness. And the human being, when listening carefully, begins to understand that consciousness itself moves in similar rhythms. We are not meant to remain at one fixed surface state. We decide, we emerge, we sleep, we dream, we wake, and we forget, we remember, we enter contraction, we enter release. And through it all, awareness remains the witness and the womb of all becoming. It's the inner knowing, gnosis. Me too. Nature is one of my favorite teachers. That includes the sun. The sun does not negate the dark, and it simply does what it does. Yeah, right? So true. So, gnosis. Gnosis is not secondhand information. It's direct knowing. It is the truth that arises from the encounter rather than the mere belief. It is the inward recognition that comes when the soul sees clearly. And this is why gnosis is powerful, because it does not depend only on authority. It depends on realization. Ancient gnosis traditions emphasize that human beings could awaken to hidden truth beyond the surface appearance of the world. Not through blind obedience, not through outward display, but through inner remembering, through awakening, through knowledge that transforms the knower. In the framework, the world of confusion is not the final reality, it is the veil. The person that not merely is captive of material, the person carries a spark of memory, a divine origin, a home beyond forgetfulness. And the process of awakening becomes a return to truth, a return to source, a return to deep place within, a return to Eden. Not as a distant location, but as a state of being. Return to Eden. Eden is often misunderstood. It is not only a lost garden in history, but it is a symbol of original harmony, a consciousness unfractured by fear. A life lived in alignment with source, a being that knows itself as part of the whole. And when the mind is dominated by fear, Eden feels distant. And when the self is split by trauma, Eden feels unreachable. And when identity is built on survival, Eden feels like a myth. But when awareness awakens, Eden begins to appear again, not as fantasy, as remembrance. And the return is not through force, it is through surrender. Not through, egoic surviving, but through direct seeing. Not by becoming someone else, but by recognizing what has always been. And this is what the hidden path, that is the sacred threshold, that is the great return. A psychology of surrender, psychological surrender is difficult for many people because the ego equates surrender with loss of control. But true surrender is not collapse. It is the release of false control. It is letting go of the exhaustion exempt to manage every outcome from a wounded state. It is the nervous system beginning to trust what it cannot dominate. It is the mind relaxing its grip long enough for deeper intelligence to emerge. And this is why surrender cannot be, why surrender can be so healing. Because control is often defense against uncertainty, and uncertainty is part of being alive. And the problem is not uncertainty itself. The problem is the story we attach to uncertainty. We imagine disaster, we imagine abandonment, we imagine collapse, we imagine meaninglessness. But in surrender, a different possibility arises. What if awareness is larger than the fear? What if life is more intelligent than our anxiety? What if the deeper self knows how to guide us? What if the dream world, the body, the soul, and the world itself are not enemies, but participants in one unfolding communication? What is the question? That is the question, is that, and once it is asked deeply enough, the whole inner structure begins to shift. I mean, from scientific side, dreaming is astonishing. During sleep, the brain is active in highly specific ways, and memory systems are reorganized, emotional networks are processed, sensory inputs is reduced, and internal imagery become vivid, and the ordinary filter of waking control softens. And this is one reason dreams can feel more symbolically intense than waking events can. The brain is no longer busy with the external world. It is working with the inner world. And because the waking rational filter is loosened, dreams can combine memory, fear, hope, fragment of daily life, and archetypal imagery and emotional truth into one powerful symbolic sequence. That symbolic intensity is not meaningless. It is often deeply revealing and more healing. Therapists and the spiritual teachers have long recognized that dreams can offer insight into unresolved conflict and deeper desire. In other words, the science does not cancel the sacred. It often provides another doorway into it. And awareness and healing. Healing begins when awareness is willing to see. Not perform, not deny, not escape. See. Because what is unconscious tends to run the person. What is seen can begin to transform. And transformation does not always mean instant relief. Sometimes it means honest contact. Sometimes it means sitting with grief. Sometimes it means learning to rest. And sometimes it means telling the truth about what has been carried. And sometimes it means letting the body come out of survival long enough to trust again. In that sense, sleep can be healing. Not only because it restores the body, but because it gives the psyche a place to process what the waking world cannot hold. And dream work, reflection, prayer, meditation can all help bring these inner messages into conscious life. And this is why intention before sleep matters. Before the body enters the threshold, the mind can speak. It's gently to the deeper self. This is how we show us what we need to know. This is, night brings healing. This night reveal what is ready to be seen. And may For you, when you go to bed this night, let the truth come in the language I can receive. That is not superstition, that is relationship. It's divine communion. There are moments in life when the line between psychology and spirituality become very thin. And a dream comes with unusual clarity. An inner knowing arrives with force. A pattern repeats until it cannot be ignored. A silence becomes luminous. A prayer is answered not with words, but with change. This is divine communication. It's in its most authentic way. Not always dramatic, and not always theoretical. It's often subtle, often intimate. The human being is not abandoned inside a meaningless machine. The deeper layer of life are speaking constantly. But we got to learn how to listen. And listen requires stillness. And stillness requires trust. And trust requires surrender. And surrender requires honesty. And this is the path. So, let's just be clear. You are not only the body, you are not only the mind, you are not only the story, you are awareness itself, the observer, the witness, the open field, the deep sea, the silent source. And sleep is not meaningless. It's not a meaningless disappearance. It's a sacred threshold. A place where the veil thins. A place where the deeper self speaks. And a place where dreams can become healing. A place where the divine may communicate through symbols and silence. It's a place where the soul remembers the ancient people understood this. And the mystics understood this. The dream temples understood this. The desert understands this. That's why I'm out here. The ocean understands this, and that's why I go there too. And the night sky understands this, and that's why I enjoy that. And the heart, when it becomes still, understands this too. So enter the depth. Set the intentions. Release the noise, honor the dream, and listen to what comes. And remember that the truth dream is not escape from life. The truth dream is awakening to what you are beneath all forms. Pure awareness, infinite, seamless, living, undivided. This is the truth. This is the truth. This is the return. And that's Eden. That's a beautiful thing. So peace and love, you guys. We'll see you guys next time, all right? Make sure you share this to someone who you think can benefit from it. And don't forget to check out my Awaken trilogy over on Amazon. If you also go with the Tree Link, Mystical Ariel, there's some links on there too. Peace and love. We'll see you guys next time. The energy within, strip away the psychology. We are energetic, electromagnetic vibrations that attract, repel, and radiate according to an emotion. We are the energy within. 100%. Peace and love, man. We'll see you next time.